بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's infinite grace and mercy is upon us all here today on the last 10 days and nights of Ramadan, these moments in which we can find the protection from the fire of hell from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I encourage you from the outset to exert the most amount of effort that you have in the last 10 days and nights of Ramadan. Whatever you may have done up until now, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of your deeds and efforts. However, this is the time to double your efforts, if not triple your efforts, and do as much as you can with the limited time remaining in these blessed days and nights of Ramadan. For it could be any moment where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would accept your forgiveness, would accept your protection from grant you protection from the fire of hell. So therefore, do not waste any opportunity that comes to you in these remaining days of Ramadan. We've discussed in quite a lot of detail up until now the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, 13 years in Makkah, and also the 4 years that he has spent in Medina al-Munawwara, and how the Battle of Badr took place. It took place with meticulous planning, preparation of the Sahaba Ikram, not just religiously, but socially, economically, and with various other skills that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam developed in them. And how when all of these things were combined in the Sahaba Ikram, then the success of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was with them. However, we learned in the Battle of Uhud that even though they had the preparation and they had everything else, but because they disobeyed the messenger, they disobeyed the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, therefore the success and the victory was taken away from them. So this should remind us all that just because you're a Muslim doesn't necessitate that you have a direct access or ticket into the gardens of paradise. You have to, and every single one of us has to work for it. You have to strive, you have to exert effort, and you have to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam if you want success. And if we want our Muslims to succeed as an ummah, as a nation throughout the world, then they will strive towards excellence in every single facet of their lives, in society, in their community, wherever they work, in their homes, whatever they may be, they must become the best that they can be, physically, culturally, socially, economically, and then also strive towards the best that they can be as a religious person and come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When these two things come together, then you will see that the success of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shall return to you. So after the Battle of Uhud, due to their disobedience, the Muslims were tortured, the Muslims were killed, and the Muslims lost that battle. And we learned yesterday that the year after the Battle of Uhud, that Muslims essentially were licking their wounds in the sense that they were defeated and they were trying to regroup, they were trying to assess what went wrong, and they're trying to come back together and obey the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, we know that Muslims were being attacked internally as well. They were being tempted by prostitution, they were being tempted by alcohol, they were being tempted by so many other things in the community. And this was the plan of the Jews as well as the hypocrites at that time to internally break the Muslims apart and to distract them and get them into all of these worldly things away from the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the influence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you see that they took the Sahaba away and they sold them off, they took them away and they killed them along the routes and their journeys, and then they blamed other people and assassination. So they were constantly trying to break Islam from the outside with the onslaught of wars, and also break Islam and divide Islam from the inside as well. So the enemies and their tactics rarely ever change. The era may change, civilizations may change, but the evil plan of Shaitan is constant. He wants to break you up, divide you, and destroy you from within as well as from outside as well. And the things that you have learned about the enemies of Islam in Quraysh, in Makkah, the things that they did 1400 years ago are the same things that they utilize even today by mocking, ridiculing, insulting, attacking, dividing. All of these things are still happening here today. So we need to be careful and we need to be prepared. If we don't learn from our history, then we are the losers. We are the losers. The results are there, but what happened when you go wrong? The answers are there, what you need to do in order to succeed. The Prophet ﷺ demonstrated that and showed that. So therefore it is incumbent upon us to learn. We will find the answers in the Quran. We will find the answers in the Seerah. We need to go and delve into them and learn and study rigorously. So we finally come to the 5th year after the Hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ, which is essentially another cornerstone in the life of the Muslims. And what happens, as you remember from yesterday, is that the Jews, they broke up their constitution, the pact that they made with the Muslims. They broke it and said, we no longer want to be here, be part of this society. Why? Because our influence is going, the wealth is going, the trade is going, and we no longer want to be part and privy of this. So the Prophet ﷺ, you will remember, he gave them 1 month to live in peace with their possessions, with their wealth. This is not afforded to the Muslims when they left Makkah. But the Prophet ﷺ still respected them as human beings and as citizens, even though they were ex-citizens, and said, you can go in peace. However, when they went with the hypocrites and they said, no, we're not going to go to leave, and then the Muslims had to lay siege to them at Khaybar after 15 days, and they finally they moved on as well. But they tried to constantly undermine Islam at every point. And here, yet again, the Jews, they realized that we need to get rid of the Muslims once and for all. We need to get rid of the Prophet ﷺ. So they had this deeply, embedded hatred of the Prophet and also the hatred of the Muslims about why are they becoming successful, why are they coming together, why are they receiving so much success from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one of the Jews, his name was Huyay ibn al-Aqtab. He was the head of one of the Jewish clans, which is Banu Nadir. So he went to the Qurayshi people. And this is important for us to understand. So he's already been expelled by the Prophet ﷺ, not deliberately, not obviously wrongfully, but because they broke the truce, they broke the agreement, they broke the constitution. So they know that they were in the wrong. But now, to further inflame the situation, he goes to the people of Quraysh and he says, we are you. And they start to make alliances. So you hear this as well in the media all the time, the axis of evil, the alliance of good, and this is happening, that's happening. You will have NATO, you will have the EU, you will have the UN, you will have the Arab League, you have all of these alliances. And this is exactly what these people are doing. They're coming together, not for the sake of good, not for the sake of humanity or welfare of mankind, to get rid of the Muslims, to destroy Islam, to destroy the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is the alliance of evil that they're trying to create. So they go to the Quraysh, he's your enemy, so he's our enemy as well. Let's come together. So this is what they start to do, come together, build an alliance, and form an alliance, and strengthen themselves to get rid of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he goes to Khaybar, he goes to Qurayshi people, and he speaks to Abu Sufyan, who already had hate for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He speaks to all of the leaders, and they start to collaborate and come together in an alliance. And then after seeking the approval and the alliance of the Quraysh, then he goes to the next most powerful tribe at that time. So remember, the Quraysh, they were the most powerful people in the Arabian Peninsula, the first people. And the second most powerful people after the Quraysh were the tribe of Ghatfan. So this man, he's gone to the Quraysh, he's got them on his side. Then he goes to this other tribe, Ghatfan, he gets them on his side as well. Then he goes to another tribe, which is the Ashja tribe, and he goes to the Bani Sulaym. So he's going and combining all of these tribes. Why? For the purposes of evil. So my question is to all my brothers and all of our nation, the Ummah, that if they can form these alliances for pure evil, then why can we not come together for pure good, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Messenger sallallahu ta'ala to unite together for goodness, to encourage that which is good, and to protect each other and to defend each other. This is what they did, and the Muslims, they came together because they needed to protect each other and also protect the Messenger sallallahu ta'ala and the message of Islam as well. So I urge you, in this day and age, even though we may be living here, we have our cultural differences, we have our social differences in power, status, all of these things, but none of these things should matter when we need to come together for good. All of these differences should be put aside. We need to come together for the sake of good, for the sake of goodness, for the sake of the welfare of community, of society, of this dunya. Then you need to come together for the sake of good, and especially you need to come together for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Messenger sallallahu ta'ala. So this is their plan. Their plan is to destroy Muslims, destroy Islam, and kill the Messenger sallallahu ta'ala So they have gathered all of these tribes together, put them together in this alliance, and this is our objective, this is our goal. And the Prophet ﷺ was not unaware of the situation. As you will remember, in the second Hijrah, as the first Hijrah, in those years, the Prophet ﷺ had sent out his Sahaba Ikram, sent out Zayd ibn Sayyid, who constantly gathered intelligence. Well, not their spying, but just going, intermingling, finding out what's happening in society, in their community. So just gathering intelligence and finding out what's happening in that particular community. So they found out about this alliance. They found out how all of these tribes were coming together for the sole purpose of killing the Muslims. They already had, a victory under their belt. They had, overcome the Muslims in the Battle of Uhud. And so now they're thinking, let's once and for all kill them and destroy them and get rid of them. So this is their planning. However, the Prophet knows about their plan because of his own, Sahaba whom he had sent out as well. So this is important for us to realize that we also need to be aware of what's happening in our communities. Don't just play dumb all the time, but you should watch the TV, you should listen to the news, you should be not only looking at the news in the local area, nationally, internationally as well. Find out exactly what's happening. Who are the key players? What's happening? What is their stake? What do they want? What are their motives? What are their objectives? Because all of these things in one way or another, directly or indirectly, will always affect you. And they will always affect you. So you should be aware of the circumstances and the situations and where you are living in as well. On a daily basis, you should make it a routine to just read the BBC, even though they are biased in some particular ways. Read the BBC, read the Independent, read the Guardian, read the New York Times, read the Russian Times, read the Al Jazeera, read all of these newspapers. It will take you maybe 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, because you're not going to sit down and read it intimately. You're just going to browse over it quickly. But do this on a regular basis. Find out, understand people and their mentality, what's going on in the world. So gather this information the way the Prophet ﷺ is doing, because it gives you this precursor of things to come. You can prepare for that effectively. So the Prophet ﷺ has found out about these tribes and what their plans are, and he realized that within 15 days, this alliance, all of these tribes will come together for the sole purpose of killing Islam or killing the Prophet ﷺ. So the Muslims are not just sitting there idly, they're not sitting there lazy, they're not procrastinating, no, they are active Muslims, part of their society, and they're always constantly doing something, proactively living their lives. And the Prophet ﷺ is planning for every eventuality, and he's preparing and he's making sure that Sahaba are ready for every single thing, in business, in their transactions, in their family life, in the community, every single thing he's preparing them, getting them off their backs and saying, children, I'm going to do this, be proactive as well. Similarly, we can't just sit here, even though we have the welfare state and so many luxuries afforded to us in this country. That doesn't mean you can sit down and let everybody do the legwork. You have to actively be doing something and preparing for Islam, protecting Islam as well. So the Prophet ﷺ, information has come to him that these tribes are coming together, the most powerful tribe, because Quraysh are the most powerful in Arabia, and the second most powerful one, the Ghatfan, they are together as well. So two most powerful tribes, and you will see these alliances and these special relationships in the world as well, and they come together. So the Prophet ﷺ has heard about this, and then he doesn't just make the unilateral decision. We've seen this in the life of the Seerah. Even yesterday, the Prophet ﷺ, and in the Battle of Uhud and the Battle of Badr, and previously before that, he would never take unilateral decisions. He would always consult the Sahaba Ikram as well. So the Prophet ﷺ, even in this instance, he consults the Sahaba Ikram, and he comes together, they sit together as a community, and they discuss this issue. This is what we have received, this is the intelligence, and they start to look at all these different avenues, how to analyze the situation, how severe it is, how bad it is, and what's the best type of reaction, whether it's passive, whether it's active, all of these things, they try to analyze all of these things. And this is important because the Prophet ﷺ is showing that it's always beneficial to consult the community, especially when it's going to affect every single person. And the Prophet is showing that concern and that care and community cohesion as well. Because you could have said, I'm the messenger, follow me, that's it. But no, it's important to always bring people together when you know that the stakes are high. So the Prophet is doing that. And the companions as well, when they come and they sit with the Prophet, the first question is not, tell Allah Ta'ala to send angels the way he sent angels in Badr, tell Allah Ta'ala to protect us, tell Allah Ta'ala to send a wahi, a revelation, and he can tell us what to do. No, they are consulting each other and they are preparing to the best of their ability. Because remember, the that the help and the aid of Allah Ta'ala will only come when you have done everything within your power and within your capacity, and then the help of Allah Ta'ala will come. Then the help of Allah Ta'ala will come. So the Sahaba, they don't ask, Ya Rasulullah, ask for wahi, ask for guidance, ask for protection, ask for angels. None of these things, they start in all of these solutions. And so we can do this, and they start to plan and start to analyze the situation and start to work and exert effort towards protecting the Muslims, protecting the city of Medina and all those people in Medina as well. So Salman al-Farisi, a Sahabi who have known and heard of very, very well, he was from Persia. That's why they call him Salman al-Farisi. Faris is obviously from Persia, so they call him Salman, the one from Persia. So he suggested digging a trench, and we know that Prophet would always be open to new ideas, innovative ideas, creativity, and different solutions to every problem. And he wasn't just thinking the Arab way is the only way, or the Qurayshi way is the only way, or my way is the only way. No, you should always be open to new ideas, new solutions, and being flexible in the way that you live your life as well. So for many people who say Islam is fixed, this is the way it was revealed, this is the way the Prophet did it, and there's this way and there's no other way, you need to learn that Islam is a very, very organic religion. And you need to look at the problems that you face and you find new answers to those problems and solutions to those answers, to those problems. So the Prophet ﷺ takes on the suggestion of Salman al-Farisi, and he said, in Persia what we do is we dig trenches. We dig trenches, and this prevents the enemy from attacking us. So the Prophet ﷺ immediately, with his creative mind, he realized that if you look at Medina itself, it's surrounded on the east as well as the west and the south as well by mountains. It's almost embraced by mountains in this U-shape. And the only entrance into Medina is from the north. Therefore, it's very, very difficult for any person to climb the mountain because it's very, very treacherous terrain and very, very sharp rocks. So they were protected from all these sides, and the only entrance was from the north. So the Prophet took on this suggestion from Salman. Didn't say, go to the again, don't keep at that which one, you've got no experience. I see, we've gone through battles and we know. Just like many people these days, even though with their hikmah, they reject our uses, but they need to appreciate them, listen to them, look at the pros and cons of them, analyze it, and then if it's beneficial, then you say, okay, even though you may be young, but this is a good suggestion, and we should go with it as well. So the Prophet ﷺ, he takes on the suggestion because he's open-minded, and he has a broad mentality towards his approach to every particular situation that he is involved in. And also, if you just look at yourself as well, that those people who are very, very stubborn, very, very narrow-minded, they are not very, very successful in their life, and people don't come to them, they're not attracted to them because it's only their way or no other way. However, those people who are flexible, who are innovative, and who are open to suggestions and ideas, people go to them. And those are the people who bring so much success and benefit in their life as well as their deen as well. So try to always keep your mind open. Religiously keep it open as well. Having your hands folded underneath your stomach is not, if your belly button is not the only way. It's okay to have it on your side, it's okay to have it on your chest as well. You need to be religiously tolerant and open to these ideas because it's all part of the sunnah as well. But we'll discuss that at a particular avenue. The point is that religiously don't be too strict, and socially in the way that you live your life, don't be too strict. Always be open to suggestions and look at the benefits and of every single particular situation. So the Prophet ﷺ has accepted this suggestion and he's consulted with the Sahaba Imam, and collectively they have made this agreement, their ijma', the consensus, that they will go and actually do this because this is the best possible solution. However, at the same time, you remember the hypocrites, those 300 hypocrites who left the Muslims in the Battle of Uhud, they are still carrying on with their deception, they are still carrying on with their backbiting and with their gossips, and trying to undermine Islam and the Muslims at every particular stage. So here, they start saying, oh look, this is what the Muslims are doing, they're digging a trench. What they're really doing is they're digging their own graves, because they are so fearful, they are afraid of the onslaught which is about to come. What they're only doing is they're digging their own graves, so they try to demoralize the Muslims, try to pick at them and try to bring their spirits down. However, the Muslims at all times were focused, and this is what we need to have as well, that the Quran is there, the Sunnah is there, and you have consulted your people, those people of authority, those people of experience and knowledge, and you have come to a particular decision, then you should remain focused. Don't allow other people to come in, infiltrate your mind and say this, because they will only try to distract you and try to take you away from your actual goal. So the Muslims, they remain focused even though the hypocrites are sending out these messages, and you know how gossip spreads like wildfire, and then you have ideas in your mind, is this going to happen, that's going to happen. The Muslims, the Prophet keeps them focused on their objective, which is to protect the city of Medina, to protect the message of Islam and also to protect the Muslims and all of the citizens. Remember, even though the citizens of Medina themselves are undermining Islam, the hypocrites, the outwardly they're saying that we're Muslims, but inwardly they are not Muslims because they're hypocrites. But in spite of that, because Islam works on the Zahir, remember this, Zahir, Islam works on the Zahir and the Usul and the Hukum, the Ahkam, the rulings of Islam work on the Zahir. You can't say just because I have a feeling that he's a hypocrite munafiq, therefore I'm not going to talk to you anymore or I'm going to treat you in a different way. No, Zahir, if he's acting and behaving in a particular way, you have to treat them as a citizen, you have to treat them as a Muslim or whatever they may be claiming to do. So the Prophet ﷺ is still treating these people as citizens because if he's the one to break the truce, then people will actually point the finger at Islam. At the Prophet says, wait a minute, you were the one who broke the truce, you were the one who broke the relationship, who broke the citizenship and the agreement. So you need to be very, very careful and patient because the truth will always overcome falsehood and you will realize who is true and who is false. So the Prophet ﷺ is keeping the Sahaba now focused on their objective. So what do? They immediately go and they survey their terrain. They already know and understand the terrain and the geography of Medina, but they still go and they analyze the situation. Where is the weakest point of Medina, which is the longest point of Medina, where will they come and they attack? They look at all of these aspects and they work together as a team and they are focusing and they're trying to come up with the best possible solution. So then they see that the path which comes into Medina, from one mountain to the other, is 4.5 kilometers. So then the decision is made collectively that they have to dig a trench within 10 days. Within 10 days of 4.5 kilometers from one mountain to the other. Imagine that, doing that today. Today you would struggle to do that with, JCB and so many things. But at that time, 400 years ago, they had to make a trench 4.5 kilometers in length. And then they all came together and they said that the depth of the trench needs to be a minimum of 5 meters. Otherwise, you can easily go in there and jump out on the other side or get somebody to give you a hand or use a prop. So the 5 meters is how deep they have to dig. So imagine 5 meters down, and obviously the length of that is about 4.5 kilometers. And then the Prophet ﷺ always ordered them that the width of the trench would always be approximately just over 4.5 meters, about 4 meters to 4.5 meters. So the width of the trench is 4.5 meters, and 4.5 meters is quite a substantial amount in terms of the width, and the depth is 5 meters down, and the length is 4.5 kilometers. So all of this required a huge amount of teamwork, a huge amount of effort, a huge amount of focus and dedication by all of the Sahaba. And as with all things of the Prophet ﷺ, he didn't just leave it to chance, he didn't just do Allah and say, Allah send you rain down here, to give me a hand. He could have done all of these things just the way, remember in Taif, when the angels came and gave the order to the Prophet ﷺ that if you just give me the order, I will take these mountains and I will crush this very city utterly in completely ruins. But the Prophet ﷺ said no. You could have done Allah could have removed the earth, Allah could have done everything, but no. This is important for us to realize that you have to exert effort, you have to sacrifice, you have to do everything within your power, and this was within the power of the Muslim, and therefore they have to go out and do whatever they can. It's not just enough to sit at home and do what the world say, this is my capacity, this is within my power, or donate. You have to do more within your power. There's so much more that we can do as well. Come together and do the best that you can. So the Muslims, they are planning. They've analyzed the situation to the best of their ability, and the Prophet ﷺ has 1,500 able men, 1,500 people who are warriors, who are there, who are able to work. Remember in the Battle of Uhud, there were 1,300 came back because they were munafiqs, and in the Battle of Uhud, there was only 313. So now, collectively, because the other tribes who are part of the Ummah, the nation, have come together with the Prophet ﷺ and promised to protect the Muslims and any onslaught in the city of Medina. So they come together, 1,500 Sahaba Ikram, the mixed community, they come together and they start drilling the trench. And this is not just done haphazardly. As with everything, the Prophet ﷺ was meticulous and he was always organized and he had a plan for every single thing. In the Battle of Uhud, he had a plan. In the Battle of Badr, in Makkah, in Medina, the Hijrah, every single thing was planned by the Prophet ﷺ and not left to chance. We leave things to chance to Allah prepare the best of your ability and then rely upon the success from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in this instance as well, Prophet micromanages every single situation, and he says, okay, he divides the 1,500 people into groups, and each group has 25 people. So into small groups, micromanaging the whole situation. 1,500 people divided into groups, and each group has 25 people, and each group has a team leader as well. You go to management sessions, and you go to university, and you learn all of these things. And this is how you need to manage a huge amount of people, this is what you need to do, how you need to have a team leader, and all these things. So the Prophet ﷺ divides them, 25 people per group, and has a team leader per group as well. And then on top of that team leader, he has Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq and Sayyidina Umar going and checking every single group for quality control, and making sure that they're having the right depth, they have the right width, and they are working hard and meticulously as well, and exerting the best of their ability and their strength as well. And then on top of that, the Prophet ﷺ is also doing another check as well. So look at all of these stages, the 4 stages of dividing the group, and then having a team leader, then having quality control, and then also checking yourself and encouraging the Sahaba Ikram. So as he would be checking them, he would be encouraging them and participating with them as well, and saying, raising their spirits and their morale, and saying, come on, you can do this as well. So in just 10 days, they had to achieve this monumental achievement. They had to achieve this task of digging 4.5 kilometers in length, 5 meters across, and 4.5 meters across and 5 meters down. And it could only be done by working together as a unit, as a team, and everybody doing their responsibility and within their share, not just we'll just do a little bit today and then we'll do a bit more tomorrow. Everything needs to be meticulously planned. If you want to achieve the best in the month of Ramadan, you want to achieve the best in the I'tikaf, then you need to realize you have 24 hours in the day. How much time do you need for sleep? How much time do you need for eating? How much time do you need for your salah, for you? All of these things you need to analyze and assess and say, this is the best solution that I can come up with. This is the most effective way for me to make the maximum from my stay here in Ramadan, stay here in I'tikaf. So plan. Don't just come and say, today or take away from us or be rosé or we know. Everything is part of meticulous planning. And this is what we learn from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they're exerting all of this effort, not just to protect themselves, because remember the Sahaba Ikram, they're willing to give their life for the sake of Allah. They're willing to give their life for the sake of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they're not doing it for themselves, they're doing it to protect Islam. They're doing it to protect the message of Islam. And then the secondary reason is obviously to protect their city, because they have a duty to the citizens and all of those people, to their wives and children, and for all of those people in the city of Medina. But the primary reason is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they're constantly striving to achieve this. So therefore I urge you all in the month of Ramadan as well, to constantly strive to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your secondary mission should be to please obviously your parents and your family, do whatever you can for them, but the first mission should always be to please and satisfy Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore in the month of Ramadan, the amount of effort we have exerted in the month of Ramadan just to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you are sincere and you want to truly please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you must continue with this effort, with sincerity, with ikhlas, outside the month of Ramadan as well, because this is the true work of faith. So the companions, they're trying their best, and they're physically toiling day and night, they're trying to get this done. But at the same time, they are human beings, remember, and everything that we've done up to this now in the Sina, I've demonstrated to you the human capacity of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and of the Sahaba Ikram as well. Yes, he has the Nabuwa, he has the prophethood, and he has the spiritual element as well that many scholars have discussed about. It's also important for us to relate and connect to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a human being. So the Sahaba Ikram, they're just human beings as well. Yes, they have the messenger amongst them, but they still are humans, so they have emotions, they have feelings, they are afraid, they are worried as well. Because due to the Battle of Uhud, where so many Sahaba Ikram were killed, martyred, and they had lost, they were worried about this scenario, they were worried about so many other ramifications and consequences that would take place. And so they're also worried about there's not enough time. 10 days to do such a huge task, and they're worried about all of these things, as well as they will not be able to complete it in time. And the Quraysh people, they'll be here with 15,000 people. This is what they're going to be. Remember, it was 1,000, then it was 3,000, 15,000 people will come. 15,000 people versus 1,500. So they're worried about this because they know the numbers, they know the urgency of the situation. And at the same time, look at what's happening in Medina. Medina is actually undergoing a drought. At that particular year, in the 15th drought, there was a drought in the city of Medina, so the harvest and the crops were not harvested. And there was a drought in Medina as well. So many people, majority of the Sahaba now, they didn't have any food either. So they're there, they don't have any food, they don't have any sustenance, and the imminent danger is right before them, and they're worried about so many things about their stomach as well as the danger that is about to be before them. So Sahaba now, they're tying stones to their stomach to overcome the pangs of hunger. And the Prophet ﷺ has not just one stone, he has 2 stones on his stomach tied to himself, and then he's there with the Sahaba. And not just standing on the side, with the Sahaba, and he's digging and he's toiling away as well. So our leaders can't just sit at home, can't just sit on their desks and say, hey, all the stuff. You need to get your hands dirty. You need to be there, be physically demonstrating that this is as much as it is for you as it is for other people as well. So the Prophet has 2 stones tied to him, and he's helping the Sahaba Ikram, and he's trying to encourage their spirit and their morale as well. And Hassan bin Sabit, he writes poetry at this moment, and everybody starts singing that poetry as well. And this helps the process as well. If you start singing, and everybody's united together and singing this poetry, and just like they do at workplaces as well, they have particular music, or if you watched Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, they have that song when they all do it together. So it does help these kind of things. So Hassan bin Sabit has written that poetry, and everybody's singing it, and the Prophet is singing that as well, and everybody comes together, it reinvigorates their iman, their faith, and it just gives them that extra push, that extra bonus as well, and they're carrying on, persevering as well. However, 5 days have gone by now, and they've only got 10 days, and 5 days have gone by of digging, and none of the Sahaba have eaten at all. They've drank water that was available to them, but from those 1,500 Sahaba, including the Prophet for 5 days they have not had a morsel of food. 5 days. And then Jabir ibn Abdullah, he was a Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ, he goes back to his wife and he asks that, is there anything, that we can give, anything that we can give, to the Prophet ﷺ, because they saw the amount of effort, and imagine the age as well. He's nearly in his 60s, the Prophet is in his late 50s, and he's there, toiling away in the sun. And so he goes back to his wife and says, we need to cook something, prepare something for the Prophet ﷺ. In some narrations it's mentioned that they sacrifice a chicken, other narrations it's mentioned that sacrifice a small lamb. Either way, whatever they had, they prepared it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and for the sake of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So he tells his wife, today don't feed the children because the food will only be enough for obviously the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So don't feed the children, put them asleep, put them to bed early, and then Jabir ibn Abdullah, he goes to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam quietly, as I say, quietly in his ear. He says, I have prepared some food just for you. Come and have that food because you are in need of that food. But the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the merciful man that he was, and the most compassionate that he was, and also how equal he was as a human being, he wanted to invite other people as well with him as well. Because how is it that a person who is your leader, he can sit at home and enjoy the luxuries of the food and everything, whereas those people who are under his leadership, they are starving and they are dying. It's not possible for a person to be doing that. So the Prophet says, just me? He says, no, I can't come, I'll have to bring some people with me. So Jabir says to the Prophet, you and just 2 or 3 other people. And then he just quickly runs out to go and tell his wife, make what they have, so then he quickly goes and says, whatever you have, and do not come in, quickly get the food together, and we're going to give it to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So the Prophet alayhi wa sallam, the most merciful of all mankind, he stands up on the highest mountain at that time, the highest hill at that time, and he does an open invitation to all of the people, to all of the Sahaba Imam, to those 1,500 people who are there toiling away, digging the trench, and he invites them all. He invites them all. He says, come today, Jabir has done our dawah, and today we will go and we will eat. And then the wife of Jabir, when she hears the Prophet is coming with some Sahaba Ikram, she said, did you tell me you were going to food for a certain amount of people? And he said, yes, we did. And then she replies and she's content and she says, then Allah and His Messenger know best. If He has called them, then He knows best. He knows exactly what He is doing. So she said, leave it to Allah and His Messenger. So then the Prophet comes and then he tells Sayyidina Jabir to stand and man the door. He says, you stay here, you man the door. And just the way the Sahaba in their groups, they were digging, they came in their groups as well. So just because you have food, they don't come in like animals and say, I'm going to eat, like we've never eaten before. No, they're still composed, they're still civilized, and they come in their groups and in an orderly fashion. Jabir is standing there by the door. Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in 2 narrations, he mentions that one narration, he takes out his blessed saliva and he places it in the food and then he covers it. And in another narration that he does a dua and he prays over the food as well, asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless the food. Either way, the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are there at that particular house, at that particular moment. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is serving the food, and the 20 five people come in, the first group come in, and the second and the third, and each group which goes in, Jabir is worried, because he knows there's only X amount of food, and he's worried and they're constantly looking and thinking what's going to happen, just like we think as well, but know that when you have more people together, sincerely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah places barakah, Allah makes their stomach with much more spiritual nourishment than you can imagine. So Jabir ibn Abdullah, every time Sahaba Ikram coming out in a group, they are, the stomachs are full and they are happy and say, yes, I'll eat to my full. MashaAllah, I had a very, very nice meal. So the first group go in, the second and the third and the fourth, until 1,500 people are fed, and not just fed forever, but they're fed to their full. And they all go and they're happy. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gives the remaining food to Jabir ibn Abdullah and he says, now you eat. And when he removes the dakkan, when he removes the top, he sees the food is exactly as the way that it was cooked at the beginning. So this is the barakah which comes from the blessed touch and the dua of the Prophet ﷺ. But this barakah, this blessing comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after the Muslims have exerted their effort, after they have sacrificed their day at night and they've gone through the pangs of hunger and starvation. Then the barakah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes. Not before that. The angels could have come. Allah Ta'ala could have sent a table down from the heavens just the way He did for Isa alayhi salam and Adnan and so forth. All of these things could have happened, but no, Allah Ta'ala is reminding you that you have to go through the toils of life. You have to go through the ups and downs and through hardships and sacrifices. And then when I think that you have done enough, then my barakah will be with you. Then my success will be with you. Then my aid, my support, my victory will be with you as well. How can we be sitting at home and enjoying our lifestyle and just be doing the dua, be sending money and saying, no, we have to do much more. We have to sacrifice the way the Sahaba Ikram sacrificed as well. So all of these people, they are coming in, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses the Sahaba Ikram, blesses the food of Jabir ibn Abdullah, and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam produces dua and mentioned it, may Allah bless you, your wife, your children, and your food. This is a dua because Allah gives to Jabir ibn Abdullah. Allah Ta'ala bless you and your wife and your children and also your food as well. So it is a sunnah to go to people's home and to do a dua for those people who have invited you for a dinner or putting to them meal. So that's why we go to people and we ask Allah to bless them, bless the inhabitants of that home as well, and the family and the food, their mal and jannah. Not just we go there for the food, we go there for a better purpose. Allah blesses their spirit and their soul as well. So after 5 days of hard work, this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards the Sahaba Ikram. So no angels have come. They could have come. Allah Ta'ala could have sent them. The Prophet could have asked Allah Ta'ala to send them and said, big different way. But we have to learn the importance of sacrificing. We have to learn the importance of persevering. And we also have to teach the coming nations, the nations that are going to come after the Sahaba Ikram, that this is how you lead your life. We have to become role models for them. So when the time did come for them to sacrifice their money or their wealth, whatever they had, they would not hesitate because they would see the examples of the Sahaba Ikram, they would see them in the battle of Badr, they would see them in the battle of Uhud, in the battle of the trench, in all these places, and they would realize the sacrifices that they made, and they would not hesitate to sacrifice in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you need to become role models as well. It's not just enough to give, lip service and say, you have to show yourself. Become that role model for them to realize how important it is, for them to appreciate what you are doing as well. So the Sahaba Ikram, they've achieved that success, alhamdulillah. But finally, just before the 10 days are completed, they have completed the majority of the trench in the length as well as the width and the depth as well. But there is one rock which is remaining. It's absolutely monumental, huge rock. And the Sahaba all have tried their best. Abu Bakr has tried, Umar has tried, Ali has tried, Usman has tried. All the Sahaba have tried again and again and again, but that rock did not budge whatsoever. So the Prophet ﷺ, he comes and then he takes his axe or whatever he had in his hand and he begins with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says Bismillah and he hits the rock with pure conviction that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him that power and that strength. And when he strikes it the first time, it was mentioned in the books that all of the Sahaba, they trembled. This is how much force Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam struck it. All of the Sahaba said that we all trembled. And then he mentioned and he hit it again and he said, Allahu Akbar, Allah is the greatest. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, Persia has been conquered. And then he says, Allahu Akbar again. And then he strikes it again. And he says, Rome has been conquered. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is teaching two things here, very, very important things. The first thing is that always give people hope. Always give people, because the trench majority is completed, but this is still a weak all that trench is useless because they've come from the side. So the Prophet ﷺ was teaching that always give people hope. Don't just give up and say, but always give people hope. And the hope of the Prophet ﷺ was giving that look, that we will be successful here. Why? Because we will be successful in Persia. We will be successful in Rome as well. And the Prophet ﷺ is reminding them that he is indeed the Prophet and Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the Prophet is that person who gives you prophecy, tells you about the future and what is about to happen in the future as well. So if a Prophet is saying that Persia will become good and Rome will become good, he's trying to tell them at the same time that we will not be defeated here. We will be successful here as well. I'm giving you hope. Allah Ta'ala is giving us hope that we can overcome this, we can overcome this boulder and this rock in our life as well. So always when you have a difficult situation in your lifetime, where things seem unsurmountable in your life, in your personal life, in your family life, in your community, always give people hope that you can get through this. And also kind of that I will show you that you have that willpower as well. The way the Prophet he was giving the Sahaba that hope as well. So always give people hope. Don't give them dismay. Don't give them a future which is bleak. Always give them hope that Allah will do khair, but you have to make sure that you do the best that you can within your ability as well. So we see up until now, the Sahaba as in Makkah as well as in Medina, especially at this instant, they have never procrastinated, they have never been lazy, they have never just sat down and waited, hand on arm and think, Allah will give us success. They worked and exerted every single effort and everything that they have within their power. So when the Quraysh people and the Babylon, all these 10,000 soldiers from Quraysh, all the tribes, they come together, 10,000 people, 10,000 soldiers, when they come there, they're absolutely stuck because they've never seen this before. The Quraysh people are just used to normal warfare, when they come, they're face to face, they're fighting, they're back, and they sort it out. However, when they come here, they're trying to enter into Medina, and there's this massive trench, so they don't know, they're absolutely surprised, and they don't know what to do. So the Prophet has changed the warfare, changed the tactics, changed the approach and everything. So they have to start, reassessing the situation, and they think, wait a minute, we haven't come prepared for this, because they only came with an X amount of food to last them for maybe 5 days, 10 days of war, 15 days of war, because they thought they had the Muslim power, they had all this people, and the Muslims are only 100, 1,000, 1,500 people will go in and swarm them, and then will defeat them, and within a week it will be done. But now they realize, wait a minute, we've got 10,000 people, we have to feed 10,000 people on a daily basis. We have to provide for them, and we only have X amount of food and all of these supplies ready to us. So they're there, and they can't do anything, they can't enter to Medina, they can't go from the right, from the left, from the back, they can only enter from the north, and there is a trench there, and they just sat there. So the Prophet has become successful, and the plan has become successful. But now, obviously the true war begins. So the Prophet divides the groups again. So those people who dug the trench, now he divides them again into different groups and at different integral points along the entirety of the trench. You sit here, you sit here, you sit here, you sit here. So there's constantly those people who are there to defend the Muslim and also a show of force that wait a minute, we're here. If you want to jump, then come and jump, because the spears were there in the trench, the spears were there directly in front of them as well. So if the horses would jump, they would go directly into the spears as well. The Prophet he's there and he's prepared the Sahaba as well. And for 24 days, the Quraysh, all they can do, and with all of their army, all of their power, all they can do is just sit there. They can't come in, they can't infiltrate the Muslims. So for 24 days, they besiege to the city of Medina. And the Prophet with the 1,500 companions that he has, is carefully sitting there, he's carefully planning and set out all the Sahaba on those integral points. And he also maintains a very, very strong surveillance system as well, to constantly find out what they're doing, what they're getting up to, and all of their different tactics as well. The Prophet, if you look very, very carefully at his planning, it's really in 4 stages that he has divided the group, and then with every group again, with the Quraysh people there, he's given a team leader as well, and then Abu Bakr and Umar is going up and down to make sure that everybody's awake, they're not sleeping on the job, they have the spears sharp and ready at all times, and even the Prophet himself is doing a double check as well by walking up and down the trench. Imagine, at the age of 55 or so, walking 4.5 kilometers up and down day and night. This is what the Prophet is doing, and the Sahaba they are there for 24 days and 24 nights defending the city of Medina. So with the Quraysh, they realized, wait a minute, we came here, probably destroyed them, and now, we're helpless, we can't do anything. So they tried a different tactic. So they tried a different tactic, and their different tactic is that they send messages into the city of Medina, and they try to get the hypocrites on their sides, and they tell the hypocrites, and they tell those other people who are in the city of Medina, break your alliance with the Prophet, break the constitution, break all of these things, we will give you wealth, we will give you control, we will give you power, we will give you the entire city of Medina, you go, you break the promises, you break the constitution, you go and kill the Prophet. So internally they're trying to create this revolt and uprising, so when the Muslims are distracted by people attacking from within, then they will attack them from outside, and they will combine their efforts and they will kill the Muslims as well. And this is similarly what's happening as well. External attacks are happening on the Muslim Ummah throughout the world, and there are internal attacks as well. So we need to be very, very careful to protect ourselves, those people that we work with and to work with, protect ourselves and our families and our homes, as well as protect ourselves externally as well. The Prophet ﷺ finds out about their plan and about how the hypocrites are trying to create this revolt within over the people in the city of Medina. And then he goes to them and speaks to them and says, look, we have an agreement with you, we have this constitution, and we're taking care of it, even though you don't want to be part of this battle, but we will still afford you this protection. So why are you going there and trying to do all of these things? So the Prophet ﷺ, he's speaking to them, but they're in between, shall we do it, shall we not do it? And then the Prophet ﷺ carries on, and he goes and tries to negotiate with the army that have come from Quraysh. Remember, the Ghatfan, which was the second most powerful tribe in Arabia at that time, he goes to that tribe, to the leaders of that tribe, and he speaks to them and says, look, you've come here not because you wanted to, not because we have a bone to pick with me, or I have anything to you. You've come because of these people, and I don't want to go to war with you whatsoever. And if you, whatever they have offered you, they've offered you, what X amount of money or wealth, then what I can offer you is that 1/3 of the crops that will be harvested in the following year, I can give that to you next year, as a payment of you going back. But then the Prophet ﷺ doesn't make this agreement with them and doesn't sign on the dotted line. He says, this is what I would like to do, however I need to go back and I need to consult the Sahaba Ikram. I need to consult the citizens of Medina, the property, people that they own the property, the people who own the harvest. I will speak to them, I will consult them, and if they agree, then, and you agree as well. They said, well, if they agree, we'll agree and we'll go. So, imagine, 4,000 or 5,000 people certainly go from the army, then he would obviously help the Muslims at that time. So the Prophet ﷺ couldn't make that decision, but he goes back and he consults the Sahaba Ikram, and he goes to Sa'ad, who was the leader of the Sahaba of that particular area at that time, and he says to them that this is the agreement that I made, a preliminary agreement with them, and if you agree, then we can sign on the dotted line and then we can give 1/3 of the crops to them. And he simply asked the Prophet ﷺ that is this a wahy? Is this a wahy? Basically, is this a revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you want us to do this? Or are you doing this for the sake of protection, or just to protect the Muslims in the city of Medina? And the Prophet ﷺ said, it's not a wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is my own interpretation of a particular situation, and I think this is a possible solution that we can have to mitigate the circumstances that we are in. But Sa'ad at that time didn't agree. He said, it is not a wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we remain, because we are on a haq, we are on a certain, we don't need to give anything, because we are defending the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we are strong in our faith as well as we are strong in our power and ability as well. So then he disagrees. Prophet could have argued with him, I am the Prophet, I am the messenger, I am the leader, I am the statesman, and then I made this deal, and this deal is good for us. 4,000 people, 5,000 people will potentially go from their army, and then we can better defend ourselves. But the Prophet listens to the Sahaba Ikram and goes with the consensus of the Sahaba Ikram, and then the deal does not go through. So this is important as well for the leaders to always listen to their community, always listen to those people, and go with the consensus of the community, and not always think that you know what is best, especially in those kind of situations as well. So the Prophet ﷺ has done that, and now the Quraysh people, they're getting even more, impatient. So they try to cross the trench. Some people do cross it, and then say that Ali defends the Muslims at that time with the sword of the Prophet ﷺ, and then they stop in their tracks as well, because they realize it's very, very difficult for us to go over as well. And then the Prophet ﷺ is constantly encouraging the Sahaba to remain steadfast, remain strong, and that they can wait out the siege as well. And eventually the Quraysh will have to leave, or they'll have to give up, or they'll have to do something. So the Sahaba they're constantly there, and they're assuring the Prophet of their following, their steadfastness, and their firmness in him as well. So the Prophet is now praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they have done everything within their physical capacity. They have built the trench, they have prepared, they have planned internally, externally, they have done everything within their capacity. And the Prophet is now praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that it is in your hands, it's entirely up to you. We have done what we could. He did it right at the beginning, right at the end, when there are no other options left apart from war or anything else. The Prophet is praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then this is when, at that particular night, after the 24-day of siege, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends a very, very cold wind. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran that He sends a very, very cold wind, and that wind, the power of the wind is that it uproots all of the tents. Imagine 10,000 soldiers, all of their tents are uprooted, all of their crops and their food and the bucket and the camels that they have, they run away. So, and they're in constant fear as well. Where did this wind come from? We're very, very cold, and they're shivering, and they're perplexed, and thinking, what's happened to us, what's happened to us. However, on the other side of the trench, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has protected the Muslims. When the Sahaba don't go towards the trench, they only feel the warm air, or warm breeze, and they're not cold, and nothing happens to Muslims at that other side of the city of Medina. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala aids the Muslims at that time. So now they are uprooted, the tents are gone, the livestock has run away, and they're bewildered, they're thinking, what's happened, we need to do something. And the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala sends Huzaifa, says, go and find out and what their next plan is. Allah Ta'ala has helped us here, we need to go find out to see whether they're still going to attack, whether they're going to get reinforcements, whatever they're going to do. So Huzaifa goes and he listens to the plans of the Abu Sufyan and the people of Quraysh at that time, and they say, that he overhears their conversation, and they say that, our crops have gone, our food has gone, the livestock have run away, we can't overcome this trench. The hypocrites inside Medina are not siding with us. The Jews who are supposed to side with us as well in the city of Medina, they're not siding with us as well. So therefore, internally we can't attack, externally we can't attack, and we must go back. So he hears this information, he's very, very happy, and he's running back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to inform him of what's transpired. The Prophet is praying in Muslim Nawawi, he's worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Huzaifa, because he's coming back just from the other side, on the outside of Medina, he's obviously shivering as well. And the Prophet is praying, and when Huzaifa comes, he stands right next to the Prophet takes his coat, takes his cloak off, and he embraces Huzaifa with him. And then he embraces him and makes him warm as well. And he holds the hand of Huzaifa whilst he's still praying to reassure him, because he knows what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted him victory. And after the Prophet finishes this salah, Huzaifa is too eager to share the message, and he tells the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet says, Alhamdulillah, he praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and thanks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the success that they were given in this battle, the battle of Trench. So in this battle we see that they had to be innovative, they had to be creative, and they had to persevere and sacrifice and do all of these things to protect the message of Islam and to protect the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Muslims were never lazy, they never procrastinated, they never just sat down and relied upon a miracle from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, you have to be proactive in your life, you have to do whatever is in your capacity, and then after you've exhausted every single avenue and option and ability that you have, then you need the success upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, you remember during this time as well, the people from inside Medina, they had already had an alliance with the people of Quraysh, and they were the Bani Qurayza. They were the Bani Qurayza, and they were internally, they had broken the pact with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they had broken the constitution, and they were about to attack the Muslims from within before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had sent that wind and sent that cold wind, and then the Quraysh people ran away. So when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam found out about their treason, because they had made this agreement and they all knew about this, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after the battle of Trench, immediately he went to the tribe of Bani Qurayza and he laid siege to them for 15 days, because they had broken the truce, they had broken the constitution, they had broken the pact. Essentially what they had done was treason, because they had gone against the state. The Medina was the state, it was the constitution, the city, everybody was part of that one ummah, and they had perpetrated treason against Muslims as well as the non-Muslims at that time. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to them and said, look, you've committed treason, and therefore you must be punished. And the punishment the Prophet ﷺ gave to them at that time was that we will expel you. Remember the way he expelled the Jews at that time, didn't kill them, didn't slaughter them, take your belongings and go. These people have committed treason, take your belongings, take your property, and leave the city of Medina and no longer come back. However, they rejected the Prophet ﷺ. They said, you Muhammad, what Muhammad? Prophet, what prophet? This is how arrogant they became, because obviously they were connected with the Quraysh and they were being fed by the Quraysh and influenced by the Quraysh. Who are you? said, no, we will only listen to Sa'ad. Sa'ad ibn Mu'az, he is our leader, because he was their leader before the Prophet of Islam entered into Medina. So they said, we'll only listen to Sa'ad, we don't listen to you, so whatever you're saying, we reject that. So the Prophet said, are you sure you want to listen to Sa'ad? And they said, yes, he's our leader, whatever he decides to do. So when Sa'ad came, he was a Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, what they have done is treason. What they have done is treason, and this is exactly what they have done. And he ordered that all their men be killed, and all their women be captured, and all the money be confiscated. And then they were thinking, oh my God, what's happened? We could have got away with our property in our wealth, and we would have gone, and we just have to accept the hukum of the Prophet ﷺ. But now we've said that he's our judge, he's our leader, whatever he decides, we will take him. So that was the hukum of Sa'ad, and that's what exactly would happen. And even in every country in this century as well, the treason, you do get the death penalty in many, many countries, and for treason there, the consequences are great as well, because you are undermining the kind of establishment. So at that time, what they did was not a slaughter. They didn't do it. What they did was absolutely, fine for the time, the period of time, and obviously the consequences for their actions was befitting as well, because this is exactly what they had done. So what they had done was treason, and this was the punishment that they received. Other people, Orientalists, they say, look, this is how barbaric Muslims were, and the Prophet Muhammad ordered this, but no, this is not the case. The Prophet Messenger ordered them to go away and leave their property. However, they wanted Sa'ad to rule when he ruled, and then this was the consequence of their actions and the punishment for their treason. So when Sa'ad passed away, because he was wounded as well in between all of this battle of the trench, when he passed away, the Prophet ﷺ mentions that 70,000 angels descended from the heavens. 70,000 angels descended from the heavens due to Sa'ad and his steadfastness and his firmness, and also him being there and protecting the Prophet ﷺ. This was the reward of Sa'ad ibn Mu'az for his efforts that he exerted for the Prophet ﷺ and protecting Islam as well. So I urge you again and again, brothers and sisters, that miracle is not going to happen. It didn't happen for them, and it won't happen for us. And the time of miracles has enacted will no longer come. This is the time of work, this is the time of money, this is the time of exerting effort, and whatever you can do, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us everything. Therefore, we must try within our ability to do whatever we can to protect Islam, protect the message of Islam, to protect our Muslims wherever they live throughout the world. So become the best Muslim that you can be, become the best human being that you can be, become influential people who are stakeholders, people who can do something, people that other people will listen to as well. And then after that, rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as well. So remain innovative, remain creative, persevere, learn to sacrifice in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also keep your reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll continue with the seerah of the Prophet.